The message to drive sober extends far beyond the holiday season. As we look back at 2025's impaired driving stats and look ahead to a safe and sober 2026, we welcome Steve Sullivan, the CEO of MAD Canada. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about those numbers. Overall, what are you seeing when it comes to impaired driving in our country?
Well, it does vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And what the numbers in terms of arrests often tell us is really how active police are, as opposed to whether or not the actual impaired driving rates are up. But I think we can look at almost every jurisdiction and say that far too many people are still making a decision to drive after they've consumed too much alcohol or drugs.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit. Let's talk about what you found with the numbers in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, so in Halifax, in 2024, there were 331 criminal charges for impaired driving, and about 75 of those involved drugs. And in 2025, there were 357 criminal charges, with about 60 of those involving drugs. And remember, in addition to criminal charges, police can also lay provincial sanctions for people who are in what we call the warn range. So if your blood alcohol level is 0.05 to 0.79, you can face provincial sanctions. So the numbers were a little bit higher in Halifax. But again, I think it's really reflective of how active police are and whether or not police are using the tools that are available. Are they using mandatory alcohol screening at every lawful traffic stop? How many officers they have who are trained to detect drug impaired drivers? Those also impact the numbers quite heavily.
Yeah, it's interesting too, just the breakdown between alcohol related impairment and then the drug related impairment. The ratio seemed to be about the same year over year. Let's talk about
most jurisdictions are seeing this increase in drug impaired charges as more officers become trained. They know what to look for, and they're just more active on that front.
I wanted to highlight an incident in our region. A 31-year-old man was charged with impaired driving following a fatal two-vehicle collision on Highway 107 in Dartmouth. That happened at the end of December. And it brings up a couple of things. First of all, a reminder how dangerous driving under the influence can be. But why is it that people are still making the decision to go behind the wheel impaired?
Yeah, it's a question we ask ourselves every day. When we do surveys, us and other organizations, and ask people that question, they'll often say they didn't feel they had far to go. They could go sort of back roads, didn't think they'd see a police officer, and they could drive carefully. Nobody ever thinks about getting into a crash. That's never on anybody's mind. I mean, if it was, then the risk of them dying is pretty high as well. But the reality is it happens to somebody across this country every single day. And we just have to keep drilling that message into people that it's not worth the risk. Even if you don't get into a crash, which was what everyone hopes, you get caught by a police officer, you're looking at a possible criminal record, vehicle impoundment, license suspension. You have to have ignition interlock. I mean, the consequences are severe, and they do impact your life. And for the cost of in a city like Halifax, or where I am in Ottawa, the cost of an Uber or taxi or public transportation or a hotel, not even close to what it will cost you if you get charged criminally.
Yeah, no, that's a really great juxtaposition there. Steve, thank you so much for sharing these stats with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Have a happy and safe new year.